Have you ever seen a $15,000 ghost make $8 million disappear? At exactly 3:48 a.m., deep inside the fog-soaked landscape of Crimea, a Russian crew gently lowers 4 brand-new S-400 missiles from a military truck. They think the darkness and the mist protect them. They think the battlefield is silent, but 30 feet above the Black Sea, something is watching. Something patient, something lethal. This isn't just another drone strike. This is a story of shadows and silence, of how a tiny machine, built for the price of a used car, outsmarted one of the world's most advanced defense networks. Forget everything you think you know about modern warfare. This isn't about brute force, it's about brains, deception, and using the fog, yes, actual fog, as a weapon. Today, you'll witness a real operation that reads like science fiction. You'll understand why Ukraine didn't just blow up a truck. They rewrote the rules of war. Let's dive in. There was a time when wars were loud. Tanks roared through fields. Jets tore the sky in half. And when missiles flew, you knew it. You heard it. You felt it. But today, war whispers. On a quiet September morning, while most of the world was still asleep, something extraordinary happened near the Crimean coast. Convoy of Russian military trucks crept through the fog, carrying some of the deadliest weapons ever made, S-400 surface-to-air missiles, each worth $2 million. The crew believed they were safe, hidden, untouchable. They weren't. What they didn't know was that for over 100 miles, a Ukrainian robotic boat had been silently gliding across the sea. On board, 3 small FPV drones and 1 big secret. And high above the clouds, a drone no bigger than a suitcase had been watching their every move, recording, analyzing, waiting. This was no accident. This was orchestration. You see, Ukraine wasn't targeting just equipment. They were targeting a rhythm, a supply chain, a heartbeat. Because once you understand the pulse of a fortress, you don't have to bring it down brick by brick. You just stop the blood from flowing. That's exactly what this operation was about. Not to destroy a target, but to disrupt a system. And in this ghost war, the first weapon isn't a bomb, it's patience. This was a strike born not from brute strength, but from silence, strategy, and the power of seeing what others overlook. And as the fog rolled in thicker than ever, the hunters moved into place, ready to make history invisible, until it exploded. But here is the part most people miss. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a financial masterpiece. Because what happened next wasn't just explosive, it was profitable. Let's talk numbers. War has always been expensive. Empires rise and fall based on how long they can afford to keep fighting. Rome built roads to move its legions. The US spent billions on stealth bombers. Russia? It bet big on air defense. S-400 missiles, Krasuka jamming towers, long-range radar systems. Each piece a shiny, expensive brick in its wall of invincibility. And yet, a $15,000 drone just blew a hole through it. Let's break that down. Ukraine's operation cost an estimated $280,000. That includes the drone boat, 3 FPV drones, support equipment, and satellite coordination. A well-funded hobbyist could have pulled this off. Russia lost. A transport truck, $150,000. Its crew, priceless in training and experience. 4 S-400 missiles, $2 million each. And the most valuable asset of all, time. They didn't just lose hardware, they lost momentum. They lost a resupply effort that took weeks to prepare. They lost confidence in a system they thought was bulletproof. And Ukraine? They didn't just gain a tactical win, they scored an economic earthquake. That's a 53,000% return on investment. Better than gold, better than stocks, better than Bitcoin. And it came wrapped in fog and fired from a ghost. This is what modern asymmetric warfare looks like. It's not about who has more tanks. It's about who can make their $15,000 sting like $8 million. Who can spend smarter, not bigger. Just like David didn't bring armor to fight Goliath. He brought a rock, but he aimed it perfectly. And in this war, Ukraine is aiming with algorithms. But that rock didn't fly blindly, it used the fog. And what Ukraine did next turned nature itself into a weapon. Let's step into the mist. To most people, fog is a nuisance. It cancels flights, slows traffic, swallows city skylines. But in war, fog is ancient. It hides armies. It blurs intentions. It creates just enough doubt to make smart men hesitate. And on that September morning, Ukraine didn't just use fog. They engineered it. You see, nature gave them a gift. A thick blanket of pre-dawn mist rolling in from the Black Sea. The Russians took comfort in it. They believed it would shield their resupply convoy, muffle their movements, make them invisible. But Ukraine saw something else. They saw cover. They saw camouflage. They saw an opportunity to turn nature into an ally. And then they went further. When the drone strike began and the heat of Russian missiles blurred the drone's infrared vision, Ukraine didn't panic. They activated the unlikeliest piece of tech, a 20 LEB fog generator. Yes, fog on demand. Like a magician's smokescreen, it poured a cold, synthetic mist over the chaos. In seconds it cooled the air, erased thermal noise, and blinded every Russian sensor. Suddenly, nothing could see. Not the radars, not the optics, not the heat-seeking cameras. It was as if the battlefield itself had disappeared. Think about that. Russia came armed with missiles, jammers, and radars. Ukraine responded with silence, software, and fog. This wasn't just smart, it was poetic. They used a weapon no one saw coming, because it looked like weather. And inside that artificial cloud, something small and deadly was moving fast. Let's meet the $15,000 assassin that made it all possible. Doesn't look like much. No bigger than a backpack, lightweight, battery-powered. No flashing lights, no high-pitched whir. Just a small, silent machine made of carbon fiber and quiet fury. This is the Wild Hornet. And for $15,000, it's one of the most cost-effective weapons in the modern world. At first glance, it seems simple. 4 rotors, a small onboard camera, a shaped charge warhead the size of a soda can. But the brilliance lies not in what it looks like, but what it does. It flies low, just 30 feet above the sea, beneath radar. It moves fast, guided by GPS, terrain sensors, and real-time satellite feeds. It adapts in flight. It dodges jammers by hopping frequencies 500 times per second, like trying to track a ghost playing hide-and-seek in a hurricane. And then there's the brain. Once it locks on to its final coordinates, the Hornet no longer needs a pilot. It goes dark, silent, autonomous. Its AI takes over and begins calculating angles, wind drift, and timing with chilling precision. From that point on, there's no turning back. No signal to jam, no button to press. Just a machine with one purpose. Strike, hard, fast, final. And here's the kicker. It's cheap. For less than the price of a luxury laptop, Ukraine built a weapon capable of defeating systems that cost tens of millions. And unlike a cruise missile, which burns out after one shot, the Wild Hornet learns from every mission. Data is fed back, tweaks are made, software is updated. It evolves. This isn't just a drone, it's a smart bullet with a memory. And in modern warfare, where budgets stretch thin and every target is defended by layers of tech, the most powerful weapon might just be the one that costs the least, but knows the most. But no matter how smart a bullet is, it still needs a trick to get past the guards. So how do you make a $15,000 drone slip past a $50 million defense system? You deceive it. Let me show you how Ukraine used illusion, distraction, and a little digital mischief to outwit the giants. Imagine standing guard in the dead of night. You're scanning the fog with million-dollar sensors, the radar's humming, the thermal camera's alive. You're trained to spot intruders, lock on, and fire. And suddenly, blip, something appears just for a second. Then it's gone. Was it real, a glitch, a ghost? This is Whisper Sting. It's not just a drone tactic, it's a psychological ambush. And it starts with a decoy. Here's how it works. 2 Wild Hornets, small, fast, agile, are programmed to rise, just briefly, into radar range. But before they do, they flick on a tiny electronic amplifier, artificially inflating their radar signature. In that split second, they don't look like 10-pound drones. They look like full-size aircraft. To the Russian operator, it's a Bayraktar drone. Big, threatening, worth a $2 million missile response. And so he fires, confident, proud, except there was nothing there. The radar was fooled. The thermal camera saw nothing because there was nothing to see. The missiles scream into the fog and hit empty air. This is the magic of Whisper Sting. It forces the defender to react, to overreact, to fight shadows, waste ammo, reveal positions, and feel a victory that doesn't exist. And while all eyes are on the decoys, the third drone, the real killer, slinks past, undetected. Its sleight of hand at 120 miles per hour. The right hand waves wildly. Look here. While the left slips behind enemy lines. And by the time they realize they were tricked, it's already too late. Whisper Sting isn't just a tactic, it's a lesson in humility. A reminder that the most dangerous threats in war aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they barely make a sound, but when the smoke clears and the fireball fades, what's left behind isn't just wreckage. It's fear, doubt, and a crater where confidence used to be. Let us talk about the moment everything exploded, and why it shook more than just the ground beneath it. At exactly 4:01 a.m., it happened. A flash, then silence, then shockwaves. From high above, the camera on the Leica 100 had to auto-adjust, its sensors overwhelmed by a fireball so bright, it looked like a second sunrise. On the ground, the Russian convoy vanished beneath a pillar of flame. 4 S-400 missiles, each designed to defend the skies, were now raining molten steel on the trucks that carried them. But what Ukraine destroyed that morning wasn't just hardware, it was certainty. See, in war, there are things you expect to lose. Ammo, ground, sometimes even men. But this was supposed to be safe. Resupply convoys were routine, predictable, protected by layers of radar, missiles, jammers, and fog. And yet, a single 10-pound drone got through. That's the kind of failure that rattles more than radio channels. It shakes confidence, it breaks routine. It whispers to every soldier, "You're not safe, not even here, not even now." And the damage wasn't over. The blast didn't just obliterate one truck. It ignited all 4 missiles in a chain reaction, creating a 5,000-degree firestorm that scorched every vehicle nearby. Burning shrapnel peppered other trucks that thought they had escaped. What should have been a stealthy logistics run turned into a funeral pyre. But here's the part no radar can measure: the fear. The Russian crews watching from afar didn't just see an explosion. They saw the future. A future where every resupply, every radar, every so-called safe zone was now a target. A future where fog hides the hunter, not the hunted. This was more than a tactical strike. It was psychological warfare at its most elegant. Ukraine didn't just destroy missiles, they shattered the illusion that Russia could ever let its guard down. So what exactly did Russia lose that night? Let's count the cost, not just in dollars, but in doctrine, in delay, and in the kind of damage you can't rebuild. Let's do the math, because numbers matter. 4 S-400 missiles, $8 million. A military-grade transport truck, $150,000. Destroyed infrastructure, dead personnel, scrambled logistics. Sure, we can count those. But the real losses, you won't find them on a spreadsheet. Loss number 1, time. This wasn't just a delivery. It was a carefully timed refill for a defensive line already bleeding. With those missiles gone, the entire S-400 battery they were meant to supply sits empty. Blind, exposed, and effectively useless. And building another convoy. That takes days, maybe weeks, of planning, resources, and coordination. Loss number 2, confidence. Every commander in Crimea now asks the same question. Are we next? Suddenly nothing feels safe, not even logistics hubs buried deep behind friendly lines. This wasn't a frontline skirmish. It was a strike at the spine, and now the whole body flinches. Loss. 3, predictability. War thrives on rhythm, on knowing where, when, and how things move. This drone attack shattered that rhythm. Now Russia has to reroute, hide, rethink. And every change they make slows them down, drains morale, and weakens control. Loss number 4, strategic positioning. This convoy wasn't a T just feeding one radar. It was part of a larger effort to reinforce Crimea's entire air defense grid. Its destruction doesn't just punch a hole. It reveals a pattern, a vulnerability Ukraine can now exploit again and again. Loss number 5, the narrative. Maybe the most dangerous loss of all. In modern war, perception is power. And what did the world see? A superpower outwitted by a drone that costs less than a family car. A fortress cracked open by a whisper. That reshapes how allies think, how enemies plan, how history will remember. Because once you realize $15,000 can take down $8 million, you start to wonder, what else is fragile? So what does all of this mean for the future? Let us talk about the bigger picture, about how this foggy strike in Crimea just redefined modern warfare for good. Once upon a time, war was about numbers. More tanks, more troops, more firepower. But that world is gone. What happened in Crimea wasn't just a successful drone strike. It was a doctrine shift. A single operation, carried out with machines that cost less than a luxury vacation, just upended the playbook of a nuclear superpower. It proved something terrifyingly simple. In modern war, fairness is a weakness. Victory belongs to those who adapt faster, think sharper, and strike smarter. Ukraine didn't win that morning because it had better weapons. It won because it understood the game had changed. And Russia didn't. And maybe neither have we. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. This kind of warfare is only getting cheaper, smarter, and harder to stop. A high schooler could build a drone. A startup could write the code. And a single, well-placed hit could send shockwaves through any battlefield on Earth. So what do we do with that knowledge? Do we fear it? Ignore it? Or do we pay attention? Really pay attention to the lessons being written in the fog? Because if a $15,000 drone can expose a $1 billion weakness, it's not the fog we should be afraid of. It's the silence right before the next one arrives. What do you think this means for the next phase of the war? Should Ukraine strike harder? Or will Russia adapt? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. And don't forget to subscribe because next week we're going deeper into the Ghost War.